Hello, everyone. It's been maybe a week or so, or I haven't had the chance to talk to you about anything. I've been, dealing with life and regular things that I have to do, and working on my books quite a bit. And but I've been in touch with many of you through the Skype and through responding to your emails, and I really thank you and appreciate your kind gestures and positive feedbacks and appreciations of all sorts. And I'm very happy that I've been able to help some of you on Skype through our talks, and I look forward to be of some positive service to most of you through the books that I'm writing, and hopefully they'll be available on my site when the site will be also available for you to visit. And of course, you can purchase the books through that, and you can also then arrange a consultation through the site, and then we'll set a time. And of course, there would be the arrangements, economic, financial arrangements for it, and it will be affordable for everyone. But in that way, I can also dedicate more time into it, as I would then be able to justify it economically for me to spend that kind of a time, which I would love to, because I'm really genuinely, as you know, eager to make sure that everybody feels as best as they can. So on this particular segment, I want to wing it for some things that I want to share with you. And that is talking about a little bit of reasons that we are in pain. Any kind of, pain through life, and mostly, of course, specifically about the pain that we have after relationships. But again, as usual, we want to go to the roots of the matter, rather than just a few remedies, activity remedies, and keep doing those things and finding out still not making a change. Why? Because we don't have enough knowledge to understand why we feel bad. We always are stuck with the fact, why did she leave us? Or if you're a lady and you say, why did he leave me? Or why things are not working. But unless you understand why, you won't be able to take the leap and move on, because you always have these questions. And I know constantly you're trying to answer these certain questions. Why did she leave? Why? And I want to bring your attention to forget the why, because why a donkey pisses in the street? Well, it's a donkey. Why it doesn't go to the bathroom? Why doesn't, I don't know, why such a person says what it does or she does? Because maybe they're stupid, or they're rude, or impolite. You can't necessarily have whys in your mind for the actions and decisions and behavior and words uttered of the other people. So whys don't always work. It works if you want to question yourself. Why did I do that? Why should I do that? Then you can come up with some reasoning behind it. Otherwise, we got to put the why out. So let's go and find out why how we see the life. You see, part of the reason for pain, I believe, its roots are planted in this understanding that somehow has come to us, that life is set, structured, and is based on land, on earth. I'm just trying to make you see something. That's why I'm saying it in this way. You see, when you're walking on land, you feel stable, a certainty about your steps, security about not falling, stable. And we all have been conditioned to look for stability, for certainty, for psychological security, physical security. These are all important to every one of us, no matter where we are in the world. So we also consider life to be, or should be, stable, certain. And therefore we somehow, in our consciousness, we think, therefore, stable certainty is something that doesn't move or is on hard grounds. so I can build something stable on it. And we want our life to also be as certain as the earth that we walk on, because we are accustomed to have stability as we walk. You know, the gravity is in such a way that we feel stability means forever. Stability means all the time. Stability means to be the same. Stability means nothing moving underneath our feet, or in other words, in our life, things remain as we set them, as we put them together, as we build them. But you see, what we build in life is not a structure made out of concrete or wood or something to expect it to stay and remain. And life is not really built on what you walk on, which is earth, which is hard ground. And therefore you expect what you build on a hard ground should also remain as everything else remains on earth, on ground, on a hard ground. Stable, sane, safe, certainty is there. So then what is? How is? Where is life being built? Well, let's use this analogy of thinking instead of we are really building life on earth, on land, so expecting a stability and, you know, certainty and the hardness of it and foreverness of it, and no movement or oscillation into it. So that's what really throws us apart, and we're shocked about it. Why? I built something, why is it the next day she's leaving, or she's changed, or things are different, or they're not as stable as I thought it should be, because once I lay a brick, I expect it to be there. So as soon as I make an effort and create something in my life, or make an arrangement with someone, with her, or with whatever it is in my life, I expect it to also stay like the brick that I laid. This is kind of what we hope, or what we expect it to be. But think that life is not built on hard ground, on land. Think life is being built and is being negotiated on ocean. And that we are not in a structure of a house like this, concrete or wood, somewhere stable on a hard land, and expect and think yourself as life journey. You're taking this journey on a boat, on a ship, on an ocean. Therefore, there's always a turbulence, movements. If your consciousness expects what you do in life, the arrangement that comes about to you or you make would have to be as strong structurally and stable and solid as a structure on land, then you will be shocked when things change. But if you have this concept in your mind that life, as you go through it and negotiate it, is really moving on ocean, and you're in a boat, and therefore your expectation is as your imagination and your acceptance of how it is, how the path that you're moving on is, which is the ocean, and the vessel that you're moving in is, which is a boat, and therefore in your consciousness you expect the boat to do this and the ocean to do this. Therefore, if you imagine that that is how your life, that is the field that you're taking your journey on, that is the field that your life is being negotiated on, and you're negotiating your life and you're moving through life on that field, then you would expect it to be flexible and moving and changing through the waves or through the boat. Just the analogy, think of it. If your analogy of life is a solid structure on land, then your mentality will always be shocked and is unexpecting any changes. Therefore, if she leaves, or the date is not working out, or you don't pass your exam, or somebody's not happy with you, or there's a disagreement or a conflict, or there's divorce or separation, or boyfriend, girlfriend, they break up, all of that becomes a shock because you expected everything to be solid, stable, and to be there as you left it, as you structured it, as you once had it be. And that is where the pain starts, because unexpected. In your consciousness, you did not expect anything to be moving. everything to be permanent. But if you change your concept of life, that life is an ocean and I'm in a boat, and these oscillations and moving and up and down and things, it's part of life. I see it. I know what I'm building my life on. I know what vessel I'm in, and I know what I'm traveling on, and the characteristics and attributes of what I'm traveling on and what the vessel I'm in does indicate that I should expect movements up and down, back and forth, falling into the ocean, getting back up. It's not a solid, permanent situation day after day. When you have that in your program, in other words, you change your consciousness of what we have programmed through life, then the things become a little bit more understandable, or at least bearable. Now, you see, I've written some things that I tried to remember, and I have my note to help me out here. Mind is operating in the field of consciousness. And this field of consciousness has been formatted when? In the past. So, and by what we perceive, that field has been put together, not the actuality. So if you think that mind operates in the field of consciousness, and this field has been formatted in the past and by what we have perceived or perceive, rather than by the reality and actuality. At least not necessarily by reality or actuality. So if it's not necessarily has been formatted, this field has not been necessarily formatted by the actuality or reality of the events, or events of life, or the truth as it is, so we must understand that it should be modified. Think about it. Mind is operating in the field of consciousness, which is formatted in the past, and not necessarily by the reality and actuality of the events, by the perception of the events. Therefore, since it is not formatted by the truth and actuality of things, therefore, the mind is moving through a field that is not actual, not present, not actual, not accurate. Therefore, it must be modified. So, in other words, we are having our thoughts operate on a default setting. What is default setting? It moves, our mind, our thoughts are moving in the field that has been formatted on a default setting. Meaning what? Meaning that just what we said, that has been formatted on a field that of consciousness which was formatted in the past. But trying to make it more senseful or easier, maybe, when you go and buy an electronic gadget or some kind of a machine or some kind of a apparatus of some kind, electronic, computerized, whatever. When you bring it home, it is on a default setting. In other words, on a setting that a manufacturer has set it already for you to function on that particular program. It has many programs, but it's been set on a default setting, something that has been chosen by someone else or some other entity when it was being manufactured. Why? Well, maybe based on the information or knowledge available to them at the time that they were manufacturing it, or maybe based on the technology that was available to them at the time that it was being manufactured. So now you receive that product on a default setting, right? But if it's not working for you according to what you want this machine or this equipment to do, you change the setting. If it's already allowed different settings, you change the setting according to what you're looking for, and you forgo the default setting. And if it's not, you may have to modify it. Maybe, find a new program or buy a new module and plug that in, take that module and plug it in. So you need to, the equipment may still be, which is still be workable, usable, but you gotta change and get away from the default setting. Now, in our consciousness, we, due to the programs and conditionings of the past generations and informations through school and parents and everything else that we've encountered with, religion and tribes we belong to, or nationalities and whatnot, and how to react to things, to be sad when we lose something, to be happy when we get something, to be sad when something changes, to be happy when it changes to what we wanted, to be sad if there's a deviation from what we thought it should be today and yet it's not, it's different. All these reactions that we do, we get angry, we get upset, we get offended, we get bothered, we want to stand up for ourselves and defend something, idea or whatnot, or the way we want to do something. It's all based on default setting that comes from the past according to all these places we've been born and raised and seen and all that. So it's a default setting. It's not necessarily by our choice. It's been given to us when we were being manufactured, ready to be shipped to have our own life in our own hand. By the time we were shipped to ourselves, delivered to ourselves, we were in a default setting. Why? The society, the community that we were functioning in, raised in, had done a number on our brain and our consciousness, and everything has been put in there. So now we have a breakup in relationship. We react to it as we are programmed. We must be sad. We must be upset. We must be devastated. Why? Because first of all, we thought we are navigating our life on land, so everything should be stable and solid as we set it, as we build it, and expect no changes. So when there is a change, for us is a shock. Instead of thinking that we are actually on an ocean, as we talked about, and in a boat, so therefore we expect everyday things change. And if we have these expectations, then we are not shocked for one reason. Secondly, our reactions to the events that happens in life is all on default setting, based on the past, because mind moves through the field of consciousness, which is formatted in the past, based on not necessarily reality and actuality, and what it is, and based on the perception, most often, if not all of them, based on perception of things, unless we've been really good in focusing on how things are, the reality of it on our own, and no outside influence was entered into our life, which is pretty much impossible. We know that. But we have the chance to modify that consciousness which has been delivered to us on a default setting, right? Okay. If we understand that, therefore, we know that our reaction toward this breakup, whatever it is going, is on a default setting. It's a reaction that you're supposed to be pissed for one reason or another. Question everything and all the whys, and even though there's no answer for it, because it's not something you committed, it's somebody else, and you're trying to find reasons and whys for what somebody else has said or done. It's just useless. You can only figure out, you can hardly figure out what the hell it is in your own mind, why you're doing what you're doing by yourself, let alone now trying to justify or antagonize or come up with reasons or find the why. You can't find, somebody's crazy, done something silly, you can't find why for it, and you get stuck on that. I can't find why for it, therefore I can't go on. Well, that's kind of wasting your life in a way, right? So we need to move on, and we've got to find out why we are reacting this way. And for now, we have realized that we're reacting because our reactions is not necessarily correct reactions based on how we want to react, is based on how we're conditioned to react. And we're reacting based on what the consciousness is telling us how we should, because it's based on default setting, like how everybody else reacted to these sort of situations, and so on and so forth. Now, let's try to find out, again, the pain and why the pain. Well, one of the reasons that, of course, many reasons for pain, but one of the reasons that we are in pain, because we are constantly focused on what was, what could have been, why it was, why it will not be, and our questions and our suffering is due to focusing the meaning of life on outcomes. And therefore you're focusing on why this outcome was like this, why this outcome is going to be like this, why this outcome is not the way I wanted it to be this way. And your whole perception, your whole understanding of life is about outcomes. You're focused and you're describing your life, how good it is, how bad it is, based on outcome of things. And that's why you're always thinking about, you're either in the past or you're in the future, because you're thinking that outcome, that's how it turned out to be, which was a long time ago. And I want it to be this way, which is sometime in the future. And you're hardly focusing on the present. Why? Because you're focusing on the outcome and you're not focusing on the effort. You see, describing your life and expecting your life to be described through the outcome of things, result of things, does not allow you to be in the present moment, because the outcomes are never in the present moment. Outcomes are either have happened or they will be. So if you're focused on how it did go and how it might go, how it will be, how it was, how it could be, how it did happen, you're never here. You're never in the present. You're either this way or that way. But if you're focused on the effort, then definitely you are defining your life and you're living your life and you're reacting to the actuality. You're living with the actuality and reality, and your life is being described dynamically as it's happening. And therefore, the pain would not come to you because you're not associating the outcome to your life. You're busy building life, focusing on the efforts you're making. You know, it's like if you're planting a seed, if you're focusing on how this seed will be, the color of the flower that or the plant that I'm planting, that's how it's going to look like. So you're really not there what you're doing. You're thinking about how it's going to be. Or you're thinking about, oh, I've seen a flower of this seed that I'm planting, and you remember where you saw it, how it looked like. So again, you're looking at the outcome again. You're not thinking about the seed that you're planting. You're thinking about the outcome of it, the result of this seed, which the result of it could only be seen in your consciousness, which is an experience in the past. You look for that flower or plant that you had seen it somewhere, the seed that you're building. You look at the outcome of it when it's already grown. Or you're thinking about how it's going to be because you've seen it on the picture of the cover of the package or whatever, or you trying to imagine, oh, how beautiful it will be. So your life, if it's only about outcomes, you're really missing it. You're not really focused on what you're doing, what you're building, how fun it is, the effort that you're making in order to do something or taking steps in a certain event or project, and you're constantly focusing on the outcome. And if the outcome is not exactly as you want it to be, and since you don't see the outcome, you're always in pain because you're wondering, how is the outcome going to be? Is it going to be that way? Is it going to be this way? Is it going to be the way I want or not? So the same thing as relationship. You're always worried about losing it or something happens. What will it happen? Will it go this way or that way? How long will it go? Or you're focusing on, how it used to be, and it's not the same as it used to be. Like today she's changed, or you're changed, or things are not the same. So again, you're constantly focusing on things that already have created the outcome, what it was, how it went, or how hopeful you are for it to be in a certain way in the future. And therefore you really miss the actuality of the effort that you're making in that relationship. So that, to me, focusing on the outcome in life it wastes our life and brings therefore uncertainty and not a psychological security, because you're not with the efforts you're making, and therefore it is nothing real and actual for you, and so therefore it creates uncertainty and anxiety and fear. If it will be the same way as it was, if it will stay the same way as it was, will it still be as good as it was yesterday, tomorrow, or last month, a year from now? Will we still be together 2 weeks from now? Would she still be the same, having the same emotions, the same interest in me today as she did last week? Or she moved in her mood, or she's changed, or has he seen somebody differently from me or whatnot? These are what brings fear when you compare situation to situations, and these brings anxiety. And why? Because you're always considering on outcomes, results, rather than focusing on the efforts and living with the efforts, which efforts means present. So many people talk about now and the past and all that, and they explain it, and it's understandable and so on for you. But if you wanted to make it a little bit easier for yourself, present is efforts. Because while you're making effort, if you're focusing on your effort, that's living in present. If you're focusing on outcomes, that living either in the past or in the future, which will be not pleasant, doubtful, concerning, uncertain, and possibly brings fears and anxieties and pain. Now, the other reason that we think we will have pain is because we're trying to turn an impermanent to permanent. You see, everything has a duration in this life, and we've talked about it in other videos before. Relationships have durations. We all have durations. You know, we're born and we go through lots of things in life, and eventually, you know, we say bye-bye. But before this big bye-bye, there's lots of little things that happens, and we don't want to recognize that they have durations. We simply want them to be permanent. And therefore we're trying to make a permanent situation out of an impermanent situation. Because naturally, situations will end. You know, you plant an orange tree, the tree will grow, eventually will have an orange, and it's time to be picked. It has a duration for growth, and it has a duration to be on the tree, and therefore it has to be consumed or done something with it. It can't be permanently on the tree. It will either, you know, get spoiled or fall or whatever. Relationships the same. They have a duration. Now, if it takes a long time or forever, well, great, and it happens. But even that is a duration, right? And if you try to make permanent out of an impermanent event of life, therefore you will be in pain. So understand that everything does have a limitation of duration, and therefore that could help you not to be so expecting or shocked if something is not permanent. And don't try to do everything you can to secure or guarantee a permanent situation out of something that you really don't know. So also perhaps we can talk about the fact that we have been conditioned to, you see, the fact that relationships are not permanent, and the fact that we have been conditioned to be pleasing all through our life. You know, when we were kids, you know, pleasing the teacher, pleasing the parents, pleasing the, you know, the elder, therefore they would call us a good boy. Or if we weren't, you know, pleasing them the way they wanted us to do or perform our, you know, homeworks or something that we had to do, then we were not considered a good boy or a good girl. So this pleasing thing had become our way of understanding that represents good boy or not good boy, if they're satisfied with us. And so depending, especially, you know, these sort of cultural things in countries that have these strong cultural backgrounds, that, you know, pleasing your elder, you know, being polite with the elder, respecting the elder and all that, and if you don't, you know, being disrespectful, there's a punishment behind it. Then so when a girlfriend leaves, to us is like we didn't please something or someone that we are programmed to be pleasing through our life. Now if she's left, that means she's not pleased, and if she's not pleased, that means, you know, consciousness tells us when we're a kid, if we are not pleasing our teacher, our parents, or some entity that expects us to be behaving in a certain way, then that means we're bad. So when this happens, the girlfriend leaves with you, think that you didn't please her. You didn't please her. And that means now translates to, I'm a bad person. So it's not really about wanting her. It's about you have something by she by leaving has caused you to think you're a bad person, because that means she's not pleased. And if she's not pleased, that reflects on me, because all through my childhood, if they were not pleased, I was being dubbed as a bad boy. So now what really brings you pain right now is not that you love her, is because you just think you're a bad boy because she's left, she's not pleased. And the last thing that brings pain for us, I wanted to talk to you, is that feelings. We seem to have been putting feelings ahead of everything. In other words, if we feel good, then everything is okay. If we don't feel good, then doesn't matter if everything is okay. Nothing is okay just because we don't feel good. It's like when you see a dish on a menu in a restaurant, and it looks so beautiful, colorful, all the ingredients look gorgeous, wonderful, all the color combination and everything, and you order it because you love the way it looks, right? All the ingredients and all the colorful things. But then you taste it, it's not good. You don't like it. So you actually ordered it because of the way it made you feel good. It looked good, right? But actually it doesn't taste good. So I don't want to miss this, mess it up. Let me see, look at my notes. Or another way is to say it is like, your bones are fine, your muscles are good, your brain is fine, is doing the material process is working, all neurons working, everything is fine, but you don't feel good. When you don't feel good, then really to you it doesn't matter if the muscles, bones, everything, and the mind is everything is working well. You don't feel good because feeling good has become everything in our life. So when the breakup happens, because you don't feel good, suddenly you forget that everything else is working perfectly. There's nothing wrong with me. My brain works, my muscles, my bones, everything is good, everything works, but this not feeling good suddenly has become more important than any other part of you, any other abilities of you, any other, certainty about you. Everything else is fine, but the feeling is the one that is really killing you. Now, and so getting back to the food thing, and so the same way, so all the ingredients are good, but it doesn't taste good, so you don't want it. But then there's some of the dishes that the ingredients are really shitty, not of good quality, but they taste good. All these spices and whatnot. That means the taste has become everything rather than the ingredient quality of it. And that's similar to how we feel about our feelings. The feeling good about something has become more important than anything else. Like we forget about everything else that we are equipped with, and only because we don't feel good, because she left, the relationship was broke up, or he left you, and the relationship was broke up, and you don't feel good, and suddenly you forget about everything else about you that is perfect. And then you're in pain. Why? Because you're not focusing on the reality of you. You are putting ahead a portion of you, which is the way the food looks, and the quality is good, but you don't like it, but the dish that is actually of shitty quality but tastes good, you find that palatable, pleasant, and you feel happy for that. So now think, which one was your relationship? Was it a good relationship that you had good times in it, and now that you don't have it, but you think of the times that it tastes good and it was fine and you were happy, but you're not really considering all the ingredients in it that was bad, but you're just thinking about the taste of it that was good for some events or some times, and therefore you're in pain because you're not focusing about how bad the ingredients in it was. Same thing, you are now not realizing how good and strong and able and capable you are, and how you can deal and build your future because your brain is working fine, the material process having, neurons are working, you're healthy and your bones are good, your muscles are good, and you're functioning well. But because you don't feel good due to this breakup, you've forgotten all the other equipments and the abilities and perfections that is already in you, and you're stuck. So my suggestion is for you to realize that you need to change your default programming, because your default programming tells you that when there's a breakup, you should just sit around and be miserable because things have changed, because you expected everything to be on land, not moving, but now realize that you're moving on ocean in a vessel of boat. That's a characteristics of life, characteristics of this trip, this journey is to be moving up and down, things changing. So you shouldn't be shocked. Your default setting of mind, which is reaction to events of this kind, to be sad, to be miserable, to be depressed, should be changed. You don't have to react that way. You can change that programming, and at the same time focus on feelings. Should not be the only thing that should be ahead of everything else. You have so much going for you, your wisdom, your knowledge, your education, your experiences, your bones, your muscles, your brain, everything's working. And just because you don't feel good about a relationship that's been broken up should not stop you on your tracks. So keep on going full force like a tank and build a different road, feel different, change your feeling by your actions, and focus on efforts that you're making in life, not on outcomes and results and how it was I had a relationship or I should have a relationship. None of that. Just focus on these things that I just mentioned, and it should make a change in your life. Wow, I talked a lot, but however, I hope I delivered something and you could enjoy thinking about it. Thank you, and talk to you later.